Ever heard the phrase, "You never know who you're dealing with"? Officer Nick Turner was about to learn this the hard way. It was a calm, lazy afternoon in the suburbs, too calm for Officer Nick Turner, who thrived on the adrenaline rush of a busy day. Cruising down the street, he spotted a sleek silver sedan merging onto the road from a gated neighborhood. Inside was a young man, well-dressed, who didn't quite fit the picture in Turner's mind. Nick's gut twisted with an unspoken bias. He didn't like the way this looked. A young black man driving such an expensive car? To him, it raised questions. So he turned on his lights and pulled the sedan over. As he approached, he placed his hand near his holster, a show of dominance that he was sure would intimidate. But the man in the car looked back calmly, almost disinterested, as he rolled down the window. "License and registration," Turner demanded without a greeting. The driver, a poised man named Jordan Moore, handed over his paperwork. "Is there a problem, officer?" Ignoring the question, Nick looked down at the ID, Jordan Moore. The name didn't ring a bell. All that mattered to him was that this man didn't fit, and in his mind, that was reason enough to dig deeper. "Where are you headed?" "Just going to work," Jordan replied, remaining cool. Nick's irritation grew. How could this man not be nervous? Most people would be defensive, maybe even scared. But Jordan was calm, too calm for Nick's liking. It felt like defiance. "This your car?" Nick asked, his tone heavy with skepticism. Jordan glanced at him, surprised. "Yes, officer, it's mine." That answer didn't sit well. Nick felt there was something he was missing. "Step out of the vehicle." Jordan took a deep breath, then complied, calmly opening the door and standing tall. He was still composed, and it grated on Nick, fueling his suspicion. "Why am I being asked to step out?" Jordan asked, his voice steady but strong. "Listen, I'll ask the questions here," Nick snapped, closing in on him. "You match the description of someone we're looking for." Jordan's eyebrow arched slightly. "I see. And what description might that be?" Nick scowled, ignoring the question. "Turn around, hands behind your back." His voice carried, drawing the eyes of passers-by who stopped to watch. With a small sigh, Jordan complied, turning slowly. Nick wasted no time cuffing him, feeling a smug satisfaction. Finally, he thought, this man would fall in line. But as Nick drove Jordan to the station, his certainty began to waver. Jordan sat quietly in the back, his expression unchanged, as if he was merely waiting out the ride. The silence felt almost mocking to Nick, who finally muttered under his breath, "What are you so calm about?" Jordan's eyes met his in the rearview mirror. "You'll find out soon enough." Nick snorted, but something about Jordan's response gnawed at him. Who was this man? And why wasn't he shaken? The station grew closer, and Nick pushed down the uneasy feeling in his gut, clinging to his assumption that he had done the right thing. When they arrived, Nick roughly pulled Jordan from the car and led him through the bustling station. Several officers turned to watch as Nick brought in the sharply dressed man in cuffs, whispers circulating around the room. One officer at the booking desk raised an eyebrow. "Name?" "Jordan Moore," Jordan replied, his tone still composed. The booking officer's eyes widened a little as he looked at the name. Nick noticed but brushed it off, assuming it was just curiosity. "Charges?" asked the booking officer, glancing uncertainly at Nick. "Suspicion of illegal activity and resisting arrest," Nick said, a bit more defensively than he'd intended. Jordan only raised an eyebrow, silently watching as the booking officer exchanged an uncomfortable glance with a colleague. As he was led to a holding cell, the tension in the station grew, and whispers continued. But Nick ignored them, pushing down the small voice telling him he might have made a mistake. Back at his desk, Nick began typing up the arrest report. But when he entered Jordan's name, his screen flashed an alert requiring a high-security clearance. Confused, Nick entered his credentials and hit enter, only to be met with "access denied, restricted federal information." Nick's heart stuttered as he stared at the screen. What did it mean? Restricted federal information? Just then, his supervisor, Captain Ramirez, walked up, her face grim. "Nick, my office. Now." "What's this about?" he asked, but she just shot him a serious look. Inside, Captain Ramirez spoke in a low, tense voice. "You just arrested a federal agent, and not just any agent. Jordan Moore is an assistant director in the FBI." Nick's stomach dropped. "What?" Captain Ramirez's voice grew colder. "Nick, you let your bias get the better of you, and now we're all dealing with the fallout. The FBI knows, and they are on their way here now. If Assistant Director Moore decides to press charges, this could end your career permanently. The words hit him like a punch. Nick felt his pride crumble, replaced by dread. Captain Ramirez sighed, eyes fixed on him with clear disappointment. Go apologize to him, Nick. Own up to what you did, and pray that he's in a forgiving mood. Nick practically stumbled down the hall to the holding cells, the gravity of his mistake sinking in with each step. When he reached Jordan's cell, he stood silently for a moment, gathering himself. Agent Moore, he began, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know. Jordan looked up, his gaze sharp and penetrating. That's right! You didn't know because you didn't take the time to find out. You saw what you wanted to see. Nick felt the sting of those words and had nothing to offer in defense. I let my assumptions get the better of me. I'm truly sorry. Jordan studied him, then slowly rose, walking up to the bars. I've faced people like you my whole life, he said calmly, but there was a weight to his words that made Nick's pulse race. People who don't see me, who see only what they think I am. This isn't new to me, Officer Turner, but this time you crossed a line. Nick's shoulders sagged. He had never felt smaller. Jordan took a breath, his expression softening just slightly. You're lucky, you know. I could end your career right now. I could make one phone call and ensure you never put on that badge again, but I'm not going to do that. Nick looked up, stunned. You're not? Jordan's eyes narrowed. No, because this isn't just about you. It's about a system that allows people like you to act on assumptions, to mistreat others without consequence. That's what I want to address, not just one officer's mistake. Nick's chest tightened, and for the first time, he saw the broader implications of his actions, beyond his own fears and career. I understand. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Officer Turner, Jordan replied firmly. What happens next is up to you. Will you let this experience change how you see people, or will you keep letting assumptions drive your actions? Nick felt the weight of Jordan's words settle deeply within him, revealing a truth he had never fully seen before. I promise I'll change. Jordan nodded slowly, his gaze still steady. We'll see. Just then, 3 FBI agents entered the holding area, their faces hard with purpose. One of them addressed Jordan. Assistant Director Moore, we're here to bring you out. Jordan gave Nick one last look before he turned to the agents. Let's go, he said calmly. As they left, Nick stood frozen, his mind spinning with regret and a newfound resolve. He knew the reckoning had only just begun, for him and the assumptions he'd carried for far too long. In the hours that followed, the atmosphere at the precinct remained tense. News of the incident spread quickly, and the silence in the office was almost as deafening as the whispers in the hallways. Nick returned to his desk, numb, realizing the truth of Jordan's words and the harsh spotlight he had cast upon himself. He had much to reflect on, and even more to change if he wanted to regain not just his badge, but the respect he had lost in the eyes of his colleagues and perhaps himself. Some lessons are learned the hard way. For Officer Nick Turner, a single reckless decision left him facing the true cost of unchecked prejudice. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.